Hi, welcome back to Fresh Faces, New Ideas. My name is David. If you like what I do and you want to continue to support me, please like and subscribe. Please follow me on Twitter at Faces Ideas. You can also listen to me on the Center Left Radio podcast on Fridays when I go on. All right, so we're going to talk about Arkansas real quick because they passed a law. It has been signed into law about limiting medical access for transgender children. So we're going to look at the law, and then we're going to break down all of these stupid arguments about whether puberty blockers are bad for you, what gender assignment surgery is, because the argument is we're protecting little children who don't want to, because the liberals are making your little children become boys with girls at the age of 4. Okay, we're not getting into the women and girls in the men and girls sports thing. That's not the point of this video. This one is specifically on the medical procedures and how this is now the extension of the anti-gay culture war. Okay, so let's get into what the bill does. All right, so we're going to read this. So Arkansas Senate passed a bill on Monday that would ban access to gender-affirming care for transitional minors, including reversible puberty blockers hormones. First sentence, ban access. So keep in mind, we're already a country that the number one cause of debt is medical debt. We already have 50,000 people who die a year because they lack access to healthcare. So the response from the Arkansas Senate is more people don't deserve to have healthcare. And the next sentence is including reversible puberty blockers and hormones. Let's repeat that. Reversible puberty blockers and hormones. So this bill is one of two types of legislation being considered in more than 24 states. Measures that ban or restrict access to gender-affirming care for trans minors, and those that ban trans young people from competing in school sports teams of their gender identity. So, like I said, I'm not talking about the sports gender bans. That's not what this video is about. So, what this does. Alabama and Tennessee are advancing restrictions of gender-affirming care. Alabama State Senate approved a bill that would make it a felony to provide care such as a puberty blocker or hormones for trans minors, and Tennessee's House Committee has advanced similar measures that include misdemeanor criminal penalties. Now, this is, once again, their argument. This is the same thing as the anti-abortion people. Their argument is, we don't want the government in our business unless it's in somebody else's and controls somebody else's business. Now, the point of this is to stop giving care to trans people because that's what their new boogeyman is. It's the same as the anti-bathroom bills, and that's what the scare is. So they're saying, they're giving these harmful medications to your kids. They're forcing them to go through this. This is their argument against the Equality Act. I'm actually going to put my Equality Act video into the link in this one so you can see what's actually in the Equality Act. So the whole point of this is to stop them from getting medical care. Now, before we go into what these actual things, the puberty blockers, and then we're going to go into gender-affirming surgeries, just so we could just get rid of all of these talking points, is they are among the highest suicide rate in America is trans people. And the same thing used to be among gay people. And then they allow them to have legalized marriage, and it dropped. And it dropped across the world. Where you allow legalized marriage for gay people, their rate of suicide drops. And this is the same thing. This is just the same thing that happened with Nas, the rapper Lil Nas. His argument is, look, man, you spent years telling me to hate myself, and I hated myself for so long, and now I'm just being who I am. That's all these people want to do is be who they are. So now, let's go into what a puberty blocker is. Puberty blocker, hormone blocker is the same thing. So, if you're under the age of 18, so if you're over 18, you can do whatever you want with your body. So, if you are under the age of 18, so this will go against all that argument, they want your 4-year-old to be a woman, or whatever, they're stupid. They want to force your 4-year-old to change gender because you think it's it. So, if you're under 18, the prescription for this is a long-lasting and intense pattern of gender nonconformity or gender dysphoria. Gender dysphoria emerged or worsened with the onset of puberty. Coexisting psychological, medical, or social problems, if any, are stable enough to start treatment. The adolescents have given consent, and the parents or guardians have given consent and and being involved in supporting the adolescents throughout the treatment process. This doesn't mean that I can just decide that my daughter has to be a kid, has to be a son, or my son has to be a daughter, or I'm forcing you to make your daughter or your son the opposite gender. They have a pattern of this behavior. It's the same, and they realize that there's actual problems here, and this is a way to deal with it. And both the child and the adults are like, yeah, we see that this is a problem, and we're going to start looking at it. So let's look at the effects of puberty blockers. If you're a male, so if you're a man and you take puberty blockers, will stop or limit growth of facial hair and body hair, deepening the voice, broadening the shoulders, growth of Adam's apple, growth of gonads, and your dick. And if you're assigned a female at birth, it will stop you developing breast, broadening of hips, and having a period. In this case, puberty blockers will temporarily stop or limit growth in height, development of sex drive, impulsive, rebellious, irritable, or risk-taking behavior, accumulation of calcium in the bones, fertility. There are no known irreversible effects of puberty blockers. Let's read that again. There are no known irreversible effects of puberty blockers. If you decide to stop taking them, your body will go through puberty just the way it have if you had not taken puberty blockers at all. So, to reiterate, all they do is slow down your puberty. They just stop you from having the current puberty that you're supposed to have. If you decide, because you're doing this for a while, that you want to stop and you want to continue, like, okay, you know what? I thought I was a man in a woman's body. I thought I was a woman in a man's body. And I've been taking these puberty blockers, and it's just not how I am. You can just stop them. Granted, my understanding is the puberty will hit you really hard because it's got buildup, and you'll be a little smaller. So let's see what the risks of them. Puberty blockers are considered to be very safe overall. We're not sure if puberty blockers have negative side effects on bone development and height. So now this goes back to the accumulation of calcium in the bones. Research so far has shown the effects are minimal. However, we won't know the long-term effects until the first people to take puberty blockers get older. This is talking about if you want to have the surgery, but we're not talking about that. Let's look at the risks. Healthcare providers refusing to provide puberty blockers to youth can cause additional distress and may lead to anxiety and depression. Withholding puberty blockers and hormone therapy is not a neutral option and can result in increased risk of mental health issues. So, look, this is very simple. Nobody is forcing your child to change genders. Anyone who says that is lying and a vindictive idiot. It's indisputable. This is saying if you have documented issues with gender dysphoria, one of the treatments is to have puberty blockers. This is a treatment. This is no different than you just having depression. They give you antidepressant pills, or if you're taking HGH or some other type of issue to deal with something else, or if you're schizophrenic and whatever they give to schizophrenics to help them manage. That's what this is about. The difference with all of those is this is reversible. You don't instantly take a puberty blocker and become a woman, or want to become a woman, or if you're a woman, you become a man. This is reversible. It happens. And then sometimes they decide not to. But there are steps to this. This is not a thing that just you can just decide one day that you do. There are actual steps and procedures to go to. So banning this is actually painful to these people. And that is the point. The point is to make their lives as miserable as possible. There is no other explanation for this. There is no scientific basis for what they're doing. So let's look at gender affirming surgeries, because they're always complaining about how they're going to force your girls to become boys. Let's go to this. Transitioning. So this is social transitioning, going by different pronouns, changing one's style, adopting a new name, affirming one new gender. So for this one, it's Ellen Page. Ellen Page decided to become Elliot Page. And people are like, well, no, you know what? I'm going to still call her Ellen Page. Well, if you are Ben Shapiro who did that, you're an ass. Just, look, I don't understand why you just can't call them by a different name. It's the same thing as if someone goes by a different nickname. Just call them how they want to be called. It doesn't affect your life based on what somebody else wants to be called. So medical transitioning is taking hormones or surgically removing or modifying genitals and reproductive organs. So this is what I was just referring to. The hormone blockers would be taking the hormones, and now we're going to look into the surgery. Steps required before surgery. So steps may include Mental health evaluation. A mental health evaluation is required to look for any mental health concerns that can influence an individual's mental state and to assess a person's readiness to undergo the physical and emotional stresses of transition. So they actually, you can't just walk in one day and say, you know what, I feel like I'm in the wrong body. I want to be the opposite sex now. And they're like, okay, yeah, sure, line up. Now you can do it. They actually test you. They have to look into you. You go to a psychiatrist. Or maybe it's not a psychiatrist. It's I don't know if it says it here, but they have people who specialize in this, and that's their job is to test people's mental health to make sure they're ready for this, because this is hard. It's physical and emotionally straining to go through this process. It is. You don't make this choice lightly, and it takes a while before you can even reach these steps. A clear and consistent documentation of gender dysphoria. Once again, you're being covered by a doctor. You have to have experts tell you that that are documents saying, yes, this person is not just doing this for some type of hoax, or they're not doing this because, as the Republicans like to argue, there's some pervert who wants to go spy on girls in bathrooms. Okay? There's a documented history that you have this issue, and this is a way to solve it. A real-life test. The individual must take on the role of their gender in everyday activities, both socially and professionally, known as real-life experience or real-life test. Now, my understanding for this is it's like a year. You have to spend like a year as the opposite sex in order to decide, okay, maybe this really is for me. And then, so look, it says, it even says that this is not even good. Firstly, not all transgender experience body dysphoria. The real-life test is also very dangerous to execute, as trans people have to make themselves vulnerable in public to be considered for reaffirmed procedures. When a trans person does not pass equally identified as their gender, they can be clocked, found out to be transgender, putting them at risk for violence and discrimination. Yeah, this happens all the time. So if I grew up my whole life as a man and then I decided I want to be a woman, but then I was like, it was very obvious that I was a man. Like I was a bigger dude than I currently am, or it was very obvious that I wasn't a female. That puts people at risk. It happens all the time. It's among the biggest causes of danger for them. These are effects of testosterone. We talked about that. The effects of estrogen. What would happen? Timeline of a surgical procedure. Transfeminized surgery. Okay, so this is what they would go through, and this is for what they would go. Complications and side effects. Surgery is not without potential risk. Estrogen therapy can associate with elevated risk of blood clots. Testosterone is used to associated with increased blood pressure, insulin resistance, and anomalies. This is generally okay. So this costs $100,000, well over $100,000. Look, so let's wrap this up. Look, these people just want to be themselves, and themselves is not what they're born as. Whether or not a person goes through gender conforming surgery has no impact on your life. It has no impact on your life of whether or not they need hormone blockers or not. It does not affect you. It only affects them. They have to go through a procedure. This is not done willy-nilly. These people don't just wake up this day and decide to alter their lives this way. They have to go through, it's a process. It's a years-long process for them to do this. You can't just decide that your 4-year-old is going to be a different sex the next day. So people who are saying that are just misconstruing the argument. There is no reason not to allow people to have this access to this. The only point is to be cruel and vindictive, and you're trying to argue about a culture war. There is zero reason to stop giving them this medicine. It's medicine. You're denying medicine to people. And I hope the governor of Arkansas does the right thing and does not sign this bill. I don't expect it to happen. I expect this to become the new anti-gay argument or the new anti-abortion argument. This is their new target. But let's be clear. These are not a danger. These people are not a danger to anybody. And actively fighting against them is just causing harm for no reason. So, if you like this video and you want to continue to follow me, please like and subscribe. Please follow me on Twitter @FacesIdeas, and I will see you in the next one.